in Quick Step, they were doing kind of double duty, and this is where I'm going to get into Cavendish because they were leading out Cavendish, but this is not the all-star Quick Step lead-out train that we're going to see at the Tour de France. Um, Cavendish is essentially tasked with trying to build up a B-string lead-out train at Quick Step Alpha Vinyl this year because Fabio Jakobsen gets all the best lead-out guys. And this is Cavendish is in a tough spot here, I think, because he needed to stay with Quick Step. If he's going to continue to win races, he needs to be on a team that has a designated, very, very good lead out train. There's no point for him to go to a team that's trying to, look after a guy like Primoz Roglic or something. And Cavendish isn't a Peter Sagan who can just go off and freelance in the sprints. He needs a lead out train. And what we saw on this last stage was Cavendish, he wasn't, perfectly set up by his team. He was having to play off of Fernando Gaviria's lead out train. And Fernando Gaviria, he got the win. Cavendish, it was just this hole that he was going for on the right-hand side of the road. You could see it right there. And for my money, I think that Cavendish was being too cautious. That is a hole that a younger, less cautious sprinter would have gone through. You think of Peter Sagan, that famous just like barging Wout van Aert out of the way at the Tour de France and essentially making a gap that wasn't there before. It's a scary thing, but that's part of a sprinter's skill set is they have to be able to shoot through those gaps. And I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I'm not a World Tour sprinter. So that's why I'm saying I think that Cavendish was probably more mad at himself than mad at the lead out guy because that UAE's lead out rider didn't do anything wrong whatsoever. That was for Cavendish to either risk it and go or not. And it's going to be an interesting season for Cavendish because he's already proven that 2021, it wasn't a fluke, right? He came out, he's won a stage at Oman after, he's proven that what he did at last year's Tour de France, it wasn't a fluke. He proved that his 6 day at Ghent crash didn't set him back. So he's on winning form. The question is, where can he take it this year? Because the guy, he has obviously got to be desperate to go to the Tour de France and just get one more stage win. But right now, that isn't part of Quick Step's plan. So how we're going to see it shake out, I'm not too sure. But I think that he's honestly going to have to shoot those gaps in these smaller races leading up to the Tour if he is going to have any shot at the big Grand Tour sprint trains.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate that we didn't really get any good video of that stage 5 crash to kind of see actually what had happened there with the other rider. I believe it was a Trek Segafredo racer that he had crashed with. I can't really tell from the clip, but he did go down really hard. And so when I was rewatching that finish there in stage 6, I do have to agree with you. I felt like he was very hesitant to shoot for that gap. And I kind of wonder too if in the back of his head he was thinking, I just crashed yesterday. This is not looking good. And, maybe he just kind of sat up there. But yeah, I absolutely feel like he's a little upset with himself. And I believe Gregor actually did get an interview with him, I think, after the stage, correct? So we may have some more information as to what had happened or like his feelings after the stage.
Yeah, and I mean, fair enough if he has that crash in the back of his head. This is why I've always maintained sprinting is a young man's sport. You have to be young, a little bit dumb, and just really, really brave because these guys hitting the deck at 40 miles an hour, that is not sustainable. That's something you can do when you're in your 20s. When you're in your mid 30s, you do not usually see top sprinters, still up there at the front. And that's maybe one of the most miraculous things about Cavendish's comeback is that he did pull himself back together in his 30s, a veteran of the sport. You don't usually see guys his age rally and be able to take wins and, at the level of the Tour de France and those just like argy-bargy, really physical sprints. So I think that it is a battle, and I think that Cavendish is definitely up against the clock. He's not going to be able to stay at the front of these sprints, for years and years to come. And that's why I personally really want to see him at the Tour de France and have a shot at beating Eddie Merckx's stage win record rather than just tying it. But of course, it's not for me to decide, and it's hardly even for Cavendish to decide.